It's quiet before the key turns, the kind of quiet that makes you lean in just a little closer. Because under the hood of the Chevrolet Silverado ZR2, there's something deceptively simple, and that's exactly what makes it interesting. No hybrid assist whispering in the background, no electric torque fill masking imperfections, just a naturally aspirated V8 waiting for its moment. And when it fires, it doesn't explode into life, it settles in like it's been here before, like it knows exactly what it's doing. That cold start has a thick, mechanical texture, a low-frequency pulse that travels through the frame before it ever reaches your ears. It's not theatrical like a supercharged engine, and it's not muted like a turbocharged one, it's honest, raw, and unmistakably American. You feel the idle more than you hear it, a subtle vibration through the seat, a reminder that 8 cylinders are cycling in perfect sequence. And right here, before we even move, you already understand the philosophy behind this engine. Because this isn't about chasing peak numbers, it's about delivering power in a way that feels predictable, durable, and endlessly usable. Underneath that hood sits a 6.2-liter V8, an engine architecture that traces its roots through decades of small block evolution. But don't let that heritage fool you, because this is a modern piece of engineering dressed in familiar clothing. Aluminum block, aluminum heads, direct injection, variable valve timing, and cylinder deactivation all working quietly behind the scenes. And yet, it never feels complicated, it never feels like it's trying too hard. There's a balance here between old-school displacement and modern efficiency, and it's a balance that defines the entire truck. Now, before we talk numbers, because we will, let's talk about how this engine is built to behave. The bore and stroke are tuned for torque, not just peak output but accessible, immediate torque right off idle. This isn't an engine that needs to wake up, it's already awake the moment you touch the throttle. The valve train uses pushrods, not overhead cams, and that matters more than most people think. Because pushrod engines are compact, lower in height, and that allows the engine to sit lower in the chassis, which improves center of gravity, especially important in an off-road focused truck like this. And it also contributes to that dense, muscular sound profile you hear at idle. Now roll into the throttle gently, just easing through city streets, and you start to notice something else. Throttle response here is immediate, almost analog in its feel. There's no waiting for boost, no hesitation, no electronic smoothing trying to make things feel artificial. You press, it responds instantly and proportionally. And in traffic, that matters more than outright speed. Because smooth, predictable power delivery makes this truck feel smaller than it actually is. You can feather the throttle, inch forward, merge into gaps without drama. And the 10-speed automatic transmission plays a huge role here. It's constantly working, constantly adjusting, but it does it in the background. Shifts are quick but not aggressive, seamless enough that you barely register them. But when you ask for more, when you push deeper into the throttle, everything changes. The intake note opens up, the exhaust deepens, and the engine starts to reveal its true character. This is where displacement becomes more than a number. Because a naturally aspirated V8 builds power linearly, predictably, and with a kind of honesty that's hard to replicate. There's no sudden surge, no spike, just a steady, relentless climb. And right about here is when we talk about the numbers. Because depending on the exact configuration, you're looking at around 420 horsepower and roughly 460 pound-feet of torque. And those numbers don't hit you all at once, they unfold. That's the beauty of this engine, it doesn't overwhelm you, it builds with you. Now compare that to something like the Ford F-150 Raptor with its twin-turbo V6. That engine delivers torque in a wave, boosted and immediate, but also filtered through layers of forced induction. Or the Ram TRX, which goes in the opposite direction with a supercharged V8 that feels explosive, almost violent. The Silverado ZR2 sits somewhere in between, more controlled, more measured, but no less capable. Now let's take it out onto the highway. You're cruising at about 55 miles per hour, steady throttle, the engine barely working, almost silent. Then you dip into the pedal, not fully, just enough to signal intent. The transmission drops a gear, maybe two, and the engine responds instantly. From 50 to 90 miles per hour, the pull is strong, consistent, and confidence-inspiring. There's no lag, no waiting, just a clean surge of power that builds and holds. And as you climb through the rev range, the sound evolves. It starts as a low growl, then sharpens into something more urgent, more mechanical. You can hear the intake pulling air, you can feel the combustion pulses tightening. And as you approach redline, there's a sense of completeness, like the engine has delivered exactly what it promised. Now let's talk about 0 to 60. Because on paper, this truck isn't chasing sports car numbers. But in the real world, it's quicker than you expect. Launch it properly, with traction control managing will slip, and you get a strong, controlled start. The torque comes in early, the tires bite, and the truck moves with authority. It's not about drama, it's about consistency. And that's where this engine shines. Because it delivers repeatable performance without overheating, without pulling power aggressively. But that brings us to heat soak.